Hugh Freeze had put an emphasis on recruitment and development when he first came to Auburn, and we are seeing the efforts of his first complete cycle. Cooper Petagna here to break down Auburn's 2024 recruiting class, which ranks number 8 in the nation and number 5 in the SEC. Coop, 2 gems in this class. They are 5-star wide receiver Cam Coleman and 5-star defensive lineman Ammar Williams, who was a December flip. And Hugh Freeze actually made history with these two. Auburn had never had 2 5-stars in one class.
Pretty crazy.
Hard to believe.
He's off to a great start. Let's start with Cam Coleman, right? 6'3", 180 pounds. This guy can run. He's got a 4.48 on the lasers. He also has a 10.8 broad. And people might be like, what are you doing with all those numbers? You're throwing a lot of numbers at us. On the football field, this guy doubled, tripled his production year to year from his junior to his senior season. He's improved so much. So much to like about this guy. We comp him to George Pickens. And listen, I think any other year where you didn't have a generational talent like Jeremiah Smith, Cam Coleman would be receiver 1, 2025, 2023, you name it, this would have been the guy. So in terms of what Auburn is getting from day one, this is going to be a player that can make an immediate impact. The other thing is he's still 17 years of age. So he's got a lot of physical growth, technical growth ahead of him. And just in terms of playmaking receivers, he's one of the best in the country. I think he's going to have a day one impact on the Plains.
And Ammar Williams, how important was it for Hugh Freeze to sign him?
It was a big one. You know, Billy Napier was kind of trying to fend off the opposition there at the 11th hour, but Auburn was still able to get their hands on Ammar Williams. And you think about this guy, what he's able to do, 6'2", 260 pounds, and 33-plus inch arms. He's a 3-phase player, played running back, played a little bit of receiver. You see him in the return game as well. So a unicorn. So although the size in terms of the length might not be there, the get off, the quick twitch explosiveness, the ability to go speed to power, he can do a little bit of everything. His best football is ahead of him. That's what I love about Ammar Williams. This is certainly a guy that's trending up, was a huge get for Auburn. I think we'll look back 2 to 3 years from now and say, all right, this 2024 class that really got it going for Hugh Freeze, who were some of the guys that were the big pickups at the end of the day. I think you can put Ammar Williams at the top of that list just with Cam Coleman as well.
Another key player in this class is the potential quarterback of the future, 4-star Walker White. He had a standout performance at the All-American Bowl. You watched him there. What do you like about him?
Everything. You know, physically, he's incredibly gifted. 6'4", 220 pounds plus. Reminds us a lot of Will Levis, now playing right here in Nashville with the Tennessee Titans. And this guy can do a little bit of everything. Strong arm, baseball background, can make every throw on the field. And when it comes to just the NFL evaluation, this is a guy that's got all the goods. And the thing about Walker White that I like is that he's continued to improve every year. We had some concerns about the completion rate, was hanging around 55% as a passer going into his senior season, jumped up to 62%. So that was encouraging. And then the week that he had in San Antonio, I think he was the most physically gifted passer in attendance. So we love Walker White. We're going to talk about these receivers in a second. You think about Cam Coleman, what they have on the perimeter. It's a really fun idea to kind of play around with what this offense can be like under Hugh Freeze in a couple of years.
Yeah, they definitely got something cooking. So let's get into those wide receivers, because it's been a while since we've seen a true star talent on the perimeter out there on the Plains, and they're bringing in plenty now. We mentioned Cam Coleman. The others are 4-stars, Perry Thompson, Bryce Cain, and Malcolm Simmons. You've said before these guys are legit Sunday players. What makes them so special?
Yeah, well, they're 4 deep there, right? We talked about Cam Coleman, how special he can be. What about Perry Thompson? This is a guy from the state of Alabama, 3-phase player, can do a little bit of everything, runs about sub 10.7. So he's got the verified speed. He's got the play speed as well. He still needs to technically develop a little bit at the receiver position, but there's so much to like about him. I love his physicality. I love his run after catch ability. He might take a year or 2 to kind of get his sea legs under him, but in terms of what you have in the physical clay, I think Hugh Freeze got to be pretty happy there. And then the other 2, Bryce Cain, Malcolm Simmons, both kind of late risers for us in the top 2, 4, 7. Got to see them at Alabama, Mississippi, and that's when we decided to move up Malcolm Simmons. And Malcolm Simmons is a guy, out of all this athleticism with this receiving core, he might be the most athletic one, and that's saying a lot, as I just broke down Cam Coleman, a top 5 player in the country. And then Bryce Cain, talk about a guy that can give you some value in the return game, can play him out of the slot, super shifty receiver, very different than the other 3. So I like the fact that they're bringing in a lot of skill, a lot of speed, a lot of different sizes. But the other thing that I really like, all these guys complement each other really, really well. And if there's one position that's kind of haunted Auburn in the past, it's been the receiver position. After these 4 guys, I don't think that's going to be the case.
Coleman and Thompson were also flips from SEC rivals, so it kind of makes it feel like even more of a win to land those guys. Auburn also secured commitments from all three levels of the defense. Which guys should fans be most excited to see?
Yeah, they did some things on defense as well. I like Joseph Phillips, another guy from Alabama, a guy that can play edge, can play off ball as well. Super active. We didn't get to see him live, but in terms of production, I mean, he's got everything you want. This guy plays with a high motor. I wouldn't be shocked if he's playing early at Auburn. You go down the list, DeMarcus Riddick, another guy has played safety over the years. They keep in state. They flipped from Georgia. I think a second-level backer that is just going to be very difficult to kind of keep off the field. You think about the speed, the athleticism, the range as well. He's got a lot of physicality in his game. I think the arrow is pointing up. He's going to play closer and closer to the line of scrimmage as he continues to fill out his frame. And then, a couple of other ones that I like. Jamonte Waller was a guy out of the state of Mississippi, a guy that was originally committed to Florida. Billy Napier, Auburn was able to get that one done as well. You talk about a guy that knows how to get to the quarterback, similar to Ammar Williams, shorter in frame, but very stout, very explosive hands. A lot to like about him. A very refined player as well. And then the last one, Caleb Harris. I mean, I keep talking about all of these guys from the state of Alabama. Auburn did a tremendous job keeping their in-state talent home, and Caleb Harris is a guy that you turn on the senior tape and you just kind of say, wow, he can do so many different things. A versatile piece in the secondary. I think another guy that can probably play as a overhang safety. So a lot to like in terms of what they've done offensively, stockpiling offensive firepower, and then you think about what they've done defensively as well. It's crazy to me. This is the 8th ranked class in the country. I think pound for pound, Auburn's got a pretty good case at each position that they have some of the best players in the country, and how they stack up against the rest of the nation has been pretty impressive. A great first full year for Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, on the field, though, Auburn went 6-7. They hung with the big guys, Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, but then had the weird loss to New Mexico State. How do you think Hugh Freeze will do in year 2?
I feel optimistic. I feel 8-9 wins, I think, is in their wheelhouse. The biggest question I have is, what are they going to do with the quarterback position? Obviously, there were some different variables you have to take into consideration with the bowl game, which was a disappointment, the loss to Maryland. We'll see what happens with Peyton Thorne. I love the prospect of Walker White, but I do think he's going to be a little bit slower in the development process. So won't see him necessarily for this upcoming year, but maybe after that. But in terms of what they're bringing in talent-wise, I mean, hats off to Auburn and Hugh Freeze. I think this is going to be a team that's competitive. And I think when Hugh Freeze got hired, I think the reaction around the SEC was, wow, this is not a guy or a team that we're looking forward to face, not only because what he can do in the recruiting trail, but because of what he can do on the offensive side of the football, scheming it up. So you pair that with what they've done defensively, they're going to continue to be a factor in recruiting. Auburn right now, like in terms of programs, ascending in the right direction. I think Auburn's really at the top of that list.
Yeah, definitely a success for Hugh Freeze in his first complete cycle as Auburn lands its first top 10 recruiting class since 2020. Cooper, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And for more Auburn football and recruiting news, check out auburnundercover.com. Our team has you covered on all things War Eagle, from signing day to the postseason and everything in between. That's Auburn Undercover.